Ukraine is ramping up its drone production to full capacity. This was stated by President Zelenskyy in his evening address. He emphasized that expansion of drone production across various categories, from smaller systems to long-range drones. Zelenskyy also stressed that Ukraine is expanding the domestic scope to produce ground-based robotic systems.
We are also working separately on fiber-optic drones. Just since the beginning of this year, more than 20 new certified drone models with fiber-optic control systems have emerged. 11 of our Ukrainian enterprises have already mastered the production of such drones. The task now is to reach the highest possible scale of production and delivery. Today, I've instructed that contracts be signed to the fullest extent possible.
Additionally, Zelenskyy pointed to positive trends in deep strike capabilities, although he refrained from providing specific figures. However, he did assure that Ukraine would meet the necessary volume of deep strike operations for its defense forces in the coming months. The Ukrainian president also confirmed the presence of Ukrainian forces in Russia's Belgorod region, following a report by Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky on the situation at the front.
Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky reported separately on the situation at the front, including our presence in the Kursk and Belgorod regions. We continue to carry out active operations in the border areas on enemy territory, and that is absolutely just. War must return to where it came from. The main objective remains the same: to protect our land and our communities in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions as much as possible from the Russian occupiers.
The US president revealed that Washington is in communication with both Ukraine and Russia. During a meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump spoke about the increase of Russia's bombing of Ukraine.
I'm not happy about what's going on with the bombing, because they're bombing like crazy right now. They're bombing. I don't know what's happening there. That's not a good situation. So we're meeting with Russia. We're meeting with Ukraine. And we're getting sort of close, but I'm not happy with all the bombing that's going on the last week or so. Horrible. It's a horrible thing.
Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever, alongside two of his cabinet, arrived in Ukraine for an official visit on April 8th. The Foreign Minister Maxime Prévost reported on X that their first stop was the town of Bucha outside of Kiev, a name that has become synonymous with horror and resilience. The occasion marks 3 years since Bucha was liberated from Russian occupation, after which investigators found mass graves of civilians showing signs of torture and execution, said Prévost. He emphasized that Bucha is not an isolated case, that mass killings by Russian forces are systematic across the occupied regions of Ukraine. He underlined that Belgium stands shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine and justice must prevail. Ukraine continues to mourn those killed in the Russian ballistic missile attack on the city of Kryvyi Rih on April 4th. Today, people gathered for the funeral of 3-year-old Timofey, the youngest victim of the Moscow attack that took the lives of 20 people. Among them were 9 children. At the moment of the strike, Timofey and his grandmother were on their way home, beside the entrance to their house. The woman was seriously injured and taken to hospital. A farewell ceremony was also held for 7-year-old Irina and her 79-year-old grandfather Serhiy. At the time of the Russian attack, the man and his 2 grandchildren were at the playground. Irina and Serhiy were killed, while the 4-year-old boy was hospitalized and remains in a serious condition. Today, Kryvyi Rih also paid respects to 17-year-old Mikita. A college student, he was walking down the street together with his friends when Moscow troops targeted the residential area with a ballistic missile. Starting Monday, 3 days of mourning have been declared in Kryvyi Rih, with the regional capital city of Dnipro also observing the commemoration. Norway will provide 5 billion kroner, which is approximately 417 million euros, for purchase of artillery ammunition to support Ukraine's defense efforts. A statement released by the Norwegian government said that this funding includes 334 million euros allocated to a Czech initiative aimed at procuring artillery shells from around the world, a commitment Norway also made in 2024. Additionally, 83 million euros will be provided to the European Peace Facility, which is used to finance military assistance to Ukraine, including artillery ammunition. The Norwegian Prime Minister stressed that Ukraine needs a steady supply of artillery shells in order to maintain its fight for freedom against Russia's invading forces. Ukraine produced $10 billion worth of weapons in 2024, 3 times more than the previous year. This is according to The Economist, citing a study by the Ukrainian Institute for the Future, in an article published on April 6. Ukraine is already covering nearly half of its weapon needs, says Andriy Zakharodnyuk, the former defense minister, who is currently the head of the Center for Defense Strategies. With over 800 private and state-owned companies and more than 300,000 workers involved, this year's production is expected to reach $15 billion. According to the news agency, Ukraine plans to produce 5 million FPV drones, up from 2 million last year. It also aims to manufacture 30,000 larger, long-range drones capable of striking deep within Russia and 3,000 advanced cruise missiles. Ukrainian defenders took down a Russian Merlin VR, Russian reconnaissance UAV valued at over $300,000. Rare footage of downing the drone at an altitude of several kilometers was shared by the 63rd Brigade. Along with the anti-aircraft gunners of the 45th Artillery Brigade, they shot down the Russian UAV in the Liman direction of the Donetsk region. According to the statement, the Merlin is the most valuable Russian reconnaissance UAV, which can stay in the air for 10 hours and cover 600 kilometers. Ukrainian Special Operation Forces destroyed a Russian 1L219M Zoopark-1 radar system valued at over $24 million. The precision strike was carried out by the Requiem Group in the cooperation with the Medoid unit. The released footage shows the moment multiple drones were used to target and destroy the system. Although the Russian military had attempted to hide it in a tree line, the Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance unit successfully identified the radar position. The U.S. Army Europe and Africa Command has announced a planned redeployment of U.S. military personnel and equipment from Jasionka Airport in Poland, the key logistical hub for aid to Ukraine. According to the statement, this decision is part of a broader strategy to optimize U.S. military operations, improving the level of support to allies and partners while also enhancing efficiencies. Although the troops will remain in Poland, they will be moved to other parts of the country. Ukrainian defenders captured 2 Chinese citizens who were serving in the Russian army. The incident occurred in the Donetsk region, mentioned President Zelenskyy. According to him, Ukraine is in possession of the documents and personal data of the prisoners.
We captured Chinese soldiers on Ukrainian territory. Ukrainians entered the battle in the Donetsk region, in Tarasivka and Bilogorivka, with 6 Chinese soldiers. 2 were captured.
Information surfaced of many more Chinese citizens operating within Russian units, while Ukrainian intelligence and the security service are working on finding out all the facts, stated Zelenskyy.
This is another country that militarily supports the Russian invasion of Ukraine. On the Russian side, this is another one after Iran and the North Korean soldiers. But there is a difference. The North Koreans fought in the Kursk area against us, while the Chinese fought on the Ukrainian territory. I think this is an important moment, which we must discuss with our partners, and I believe urgently. I know that we are a strong country, but we cannot fight so many countries at once, who all need something on our land. We really hope that after this situation, the Americans will talk more with the Ukrainians and then with the Russians. And we really hope that the Chinese side will also react. I have instructed the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Defense to contact the Chinese counterparts so that they can give us an explanation for those actions.
Belgium will allocate €1 billion to the annual defense budget of Ukraine. This was stated by the country's new Prime Minister Bart de Wever during a joint press conference with President Zelenskyy.
And I'm happy to announce that we made a new decision with the new government. We're going to continue, of course, our humanitarian aid. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maxime Prévost, is here, but also our Minister of Defense, who is proud that he can announce a new decision of a €1 billion aid package for 2025, with the ambition to do at minimum 1 billion every year for my term in bilateral military aid, and our minister has a menu of things that we are going to do in a very short notice, in the very near future.
According to the weather, this year Ukraine will receive 2 F-16 fighter jets to be used for spare parts. Next year, a further 2 will also be delivered. He noted that as soon as Belgium acquires the new F-35 jets, Ukraine will immediately get the promised F-16s from Brussels.